Hello everyone, back out in the sun in my hiding place in the allotment. Today we're going to look at focus groups, another interpretivist method which as interpretivist tends to give you research data that's high in validity, high in Vestayan, but may lack reliability and almost certainly won't get you a representative sample. So there's lots of pros and cons. The reading for focus groups in the textbook is on pages 213 to 215. So if you could take notes on that to kind of supplement what we're going over, that would be fantastic. I'm just going to move back a bit. It's kinder on the eye, isn't it? Much better. Okay, so what is a focus group? So a focus group is really, I should have said, sorry, this is page 34 in the booklet, page 34 that you want to be filling in. Okay, focus groups are essentially a group interview that is led by the researcher. Although they might let the conversation go off in different tangents, they are directing it, certainly. In a sense, a bit like a group discussion in class. That is, in a way, a focus group. Well, it certainly is a focus group. Right, let's look at some pros and cons of them. And then I'm going to ask you to do some reading in the booklet on Paul Willis. We've already looked at learning to labour in some detail. As we know, he used unstructured interviews, observation. He also used focus groups with the lads and interviewed all these rather wayward boys, this anti-school subculture as a group. So I've given you some writing on that on pages 34 and 35 and 36 in the booklet. And if you could do the activity on that, that'd be fantastic. Okay. So, advantages of focus groups. One of the first advantages that it has certainly over an unstructured interview is that it allows you to reach a rather larger sample group in one go. It may be time consuming like an unstructured interview, I keep saying that, but an unstructured interview obviously is just with one person. So it might take hours and hours to get any kind of decent sample. A focus group's going to allow you to maybe reach up to 30 people or so in one go. And so in theory, you might be able to access a more representative sample. And as we know, if you can access a more representative sample, you are more likely to be able to generalise those findings to the target population, whomever that might be. Okay. Secondly, focus groups can be very high in validity. The very nature of them means you might have a really good in-depth conversation with this group, and you may have allowed a long period for this conversation to continue, and therefore you're likely to get high levels of validity. And by that, of course, I mean you might get some good in-depth, detailed information. And you would hope if you do the interview or the group interview correctly, that you also might have created a nice relaxed atmosphere, built up a rapport with your sample, so that you may also get quite high levels of truth. They'll feel confident enough to be honest with you. Clearly there's some problems with that we'll discuss in a minute. You might also be able to get quite high levels of Vestayan. Again, you might be able to really see why people are giving these answers. You're giving them the time and space to explain why they said yes to a question, why they said no to a question. What's the meaning behind that? Why do they feel like that? And as we know, Vestayan is the ability really to show great empathy for your sample, to almost take a walk in their shoes, see the world from their viewpoint. Okay. You may, or the sample may feel more confident answering in a group. Some people find the intensity of one-to-one conversation quite intense and quite off-putting, particularly if they lack confidence themselves. And they may prefer the more relaxed group atmosphere, perhaps even with some of their friends involved. And it may enable them to open up more and give you more depth and detail. Now, clearly that might not be the case also. One extra kind of advantage, I think, is that you can observe the group as well. So, for example, Paul Willis interviewing this group of wayward boys in the school, the so-called counter-school subculture, he was able, when he did a group interview with them, to also watch their interactions with each other, to see how they bounce off each other. So it's possible, not always, that actually observing the group might be an additional benefit. Okay. Now, you'll get more detail on this in the textbook, but let's look at some disadvantages as well. One big disadvantage of a focus group is that one person may dominate the group. Now, you'll know this from being in any class, that there are always people that are first to answer. They'll always put their hands up or answer more quickly than everyone else. And the group can quickly become reliant on that, actually. So either they may feel intimidated by this one person and therefore not everyone speaks up, or they're just a bit lazy and let one or two people do the speaking. Now, of course, then you're not going to get the broad range of views that you'd hoped for. So it might lack the validity, the depth you'd hoped for. Also, some people might be reluctant to speak due to social desirability, so wanting to look good. Oh, that's better, isn't it? Wanting to look good, like me at this moment. And therefore, if they're giving an answer, so let's imagine you're interviewing a group of school kids aged 12 about the videos they've been at, or the YouTube they've watched at home, what they've watched on the media. Now, one little lad might have really strict parents who said, no, you know, they've set all the parental controls, of course, as they should, and their child hasn't watched anything or played any games that are over a 12 rating. However, if all of the other lads in the group are saying, yeah, I've watched Saw and various other video nasties, then it's likely that the lad that's watched nothing untoward is going to say that he too has watched them, just out of social desirability, wanting to remain in with the group and not make themselves look different. So that's something to look out for. Also, whenever you've got a group discussion, the conversation may go off at massive tangents. I'm going to throw in another advantage actually there, that tangent can be really useful because people in the group may fire off each other, think of information or topics they might not have thought of and then be able to add to them. So people kind of sparring off each other or sparking off each other can be really useful. But likewise, you could put that in the advantages, but also the conversation going off at tangents, unless it's well reined in by the researcher, might just end in masses of irrelevant information that's not useful to the research at all and takes hours and hours to plough through. It's very time consuming. What else have I put? There could also be researcher bias when the researchers inevitably ploughing through vast amounts of information at the end. It's going to be hard when you've just got masses of transcripts or videos or recordings not to cherry pick the information that kind of suits your thinking. So if you're a feminist and you've been interviewing people about their views on pornography, it will be really hard, I think, for a radical feminist not to interpret that information through their eyes, which may be quite biased eyes. Okay. Other things that might be problematic is researcher effect. Even though, and again, you could kind of use this as an advantage or disadvantage, the researcher effect, i.e. the impact of who the researcher is and their part in the proceedings, may be reduced by the group interview because there's more of the respondents than the interviewer, so that might reduce the researcher impact. However, it's still there. If you are interviewing, as Paul Willis was, a group of rather naughty boys in a school, and you are a middle-class man who is, to them, just another authority figure, however many of them there are in the group, you're still an authority figure, and they're still going to be influenced by just the fact that you are someone that's just another person that might have told them off, and that might impact on their answers, encouraging them to either exaggerate or actually lie completely. Okay, one more thing, reliability. Focus groups, much like unstructured interviews, are almost inevitably going to lack reliability. So if you remember, the two key words for reliability are, is it standardised, i.e. identical every time, and therefore can it be accurately repeated? Now, clearly, if we're allowing a focus group to go off at loads of tangents, there's going to be no reliability. It's not going to be the same every time. And it may be almost impossible to spot any trends and patterns from these interviews if they've looked very different each time. Okay, so if you could, as I said, then back that up with the reading on pages 213 to 215 and actually put them online so I can see them this time. That would be great. Thank you very much. And also, could you fill in the activity on page 36 based on the work of Paul Willis, and I've put that into the booklet. That would be fantastic. I'm setting this on Monday, even though it's not Monday today. So I'm setting this on Monday. What would that be? So Thursday, the 23rd, 24th is Friday. This is going to be painful. What did I say? 24th is Friday, 25th Saturday, 26th Sunday, 27th is Monday. Yes, the 27th is Monday. So I'm setting it then. So if you could hand it in for the following Monday, I'm not even going to try and work out that in my mind. I'm going to set you one other piece of work as well. But if you could get that done in the week, that would be fantastic. As ever, I'm available on email. Please do get in touch if you're struggling to take the notes, struggling to understand them, or even just struggling to upload them. Okay, thanks. Take care. Bye.